I don't appreciate being woken from my slumber by someone I don't even know. Who are you, and how on earth did you find this place? A tracker. Ah, so you must be very good with maps, young one. But seriously, how did you find this place? I picked it specifically so nobody, even the best of trackers, could find me. What is your name? Ah, those are two names I have not heard in a very long time, my dear. A very long time. Well, who do you think I am then, child? If you have come all this way to find my impossible to locate home, then you must know who you are looking for. Ah, so you do know who I am. Well, yes, I am Elder Keeva. And yes, I am quite old. 151 years, to be exact. I have lived to see 6 rulers of the Arrestan Empire. 4 of them have been men, and 2 of which have been women. And if I am not mistaken, one of those women is the current empress as we speak. You have read your history. Your namesake is the name of the empress I served many years ago. Empress Seraphina Isidora Cohen Grievous, first of her name. She saved my life from her brother-in-law in the war that was started just for power, greed, money, land. She asked me to serve as her hand for many years until she gave the throne to her son when he came of age. After that I retired here, and I've lived here alone ever since. I do not know why I've lived so long. Maybe the gods want me to write the history of this world, or perhaps they're punishing me with eternal life. I'm not really sure. So, do you want to tell me why you came all this way from Murado just to see me? You want a history lesson? You want to know exactly what happened during, before, and after the war? Word for word? I don't normally tell my stories to people I don't know nor have never met. But since you made it all this way, I guess I shouldn't leave you empty-handed. If you insist, sit. But know this. I do want something in return, and by something, I wish to leave this place. I've heard that your grandmother owns a tavern, and I wish to live there in peace without having to pay a single dime. Is that a fair request? Good. Now, where should I begin? Should I begin with the life of the late Empress Seraphina? Alrighty then, let's see what this old brain can remember. Seraphina was born Princess Seraphina Isidora Cohen of House Cohen. She was born in Bayamar, located in the southern regions of the Arrestan Empire, in 24 BBS. From what I can remember about her features, she had dark black hair, sapphire blue eyes, and had very unique olive-tanned skin that wasn't very common in the Arrestan Empire. She was the 3rd child and 2nd daughter of Duke Silas Cohen and Duchess Mirel Blaisley. In total, Seraphina had 7 siblings, although I do not know any of their names. When Seraphina was of age, her family commissioned a portrait of her to send to the capital of the empire, to the palace of Empress Matthias Grievous and his 2 sons. This is a tradition in the Arestan Empire so that male heirs could choose wives for themselves. But they don't just choose their wives based on their beauty. Along with their portraits, they send the girl's interests, talents, hobbies, information about their family's history of conceiving and having children. They are also sent, as well, a gift to each member of the imperial family from the young girls and their families. At the time Seraphina came of age, the emperor only had 2 sons, the High Prince Dorian Anthony Grievous and the Prince Victor Godfrey Grievous. The emperor's wife had died shortly after giving birth to their 2nd son, and he refused to remarry. It was crucial that the emperor's sons got married and produced heirs quickly. Prince Victor wasn't really impressed with Seraphina. However, the High Prince Dorian was. But, like his youngest son, the emperor was not impressed with Seraphina and thought she was too boyish for the heir of the Arestan Empire. But with some convincing, Dorian convinced his father to summon the Princess Seraphina and her family to the palace. Seraphina's mother and father presented her to the emperor and both of his sons. Prince Dorian was very enamored with Seraphina's beauty in person. He invited the princess to walk with him in the courtyards, and Seraphina impressed Dorian with her intelligence and her knowledge of horse riding and sword fighting. After a couple of months of courting and conceiving, his father, Prince Dorian, asked Seraphina to marry him, and she gladly said yes. Victor was still not fond of Seraphina, but eventually learned to tolerate his future sister-in-law. After a few months of planning the extravagant wedding, Dorian and Seraphina were married at 17 and 19 respectively. After a year of marriage, to Victor's dismay, Seraphina gave birth to a son, Lorcan Fergus Grievous. 2 years after that, Seraphina gave birth to yet another son, Zachariah Victor Grievous. And a year after that, Seraphina gave birth to yet another son, Julius Maximus Grievous. And after another 2 years, Seraphina gave Dorian the 2 princesses that he always wanted. Seraphina gave birth to her last 2 children, twin daughters, Edith Adeline Grievous and Lucinia Cosmina Grievous. Within 3 years, Prince Victor went from 3rd in line to the throne to 6th, and he was furious. Victor tried to cause rumors around the palace that Seraphina's sons were not Dorian's, but those claims were quickly shot down by maids, lords, and ladies. But because of these rumors, Victor shot himself in the foot and was removed from the line of succession by his father for treason. He was sent to the north, to Cladborough Castle, by his father as a punishment. However, after the emperor died and Dorian became emperor, he invited his brother back to the palace and restored his royal titles. This gave Victor the opportunity to come up with a plan to overthrow his brother. Victor would convince his brother to go to war with the surrounding territories belonging to the tribes around the west of the empire. If the war caused enough damage and the empire were to spend all its money on the war, the people would overthrow Dorian and perhaps make Victor emperor. The only problem in his way was Seraphina and her children. She was very suspicious of the start of the war and snuck into their meeting room at night to see exactly what they were planning, and she quickly realized what Victor was doing. Victor caught her one night, sneaking into the room, and asked her what she was doing. Knowing Victor was suspicious of her, she actually gave Victor a suggestion about where to send the forces. Victor, being stupid enough, fell for it, not knowing that it was all a part of Seraphina's plan. Dorian did not leave for the war, but Victor was sent as the head general and made the people of the empire believe Dorian was greedy and wanted more land for himself. While Victor was off at war, Dorian started to party and drink more and was becoming more and more unstable, and the money in the empire was being drained very, very quickly due to Dorian's lavish lifestyle. Seraphina took her children to the south, to Bayamar, to stay with her mother until the war was over, without Victor or Dorian knowing. When she returned to the palace, she did only what she could do to get the war to stop. Seraphina poisoned her husband's wine, and he died in his sleep that night. The next morning, the empress was informed of her husband's sudden and unexpected death, and Seraphina was filled with guilt and sadness. She took on the role of regent and quickly left the palace in disguise and put together an army full of people who had been against the war in the beginning. None of them knew that the woman leading them was the empress, because Seraphina went by the name of Seraph and was made general of the resistance army. Since Victor was off fighting this war, he had no idea that his brother was dead. Messengers sent to tell him of his brother's death were never able to make it to him, or they suspiciously died before making it to his camps. It is believed that Seraphina had sent assassins to intercept all of the messengers that the lords tried to send to Victor, and eventually the lords gave up trying to send the important message to Victor. While trying to locate Prince Victor, General Seraph and her army stumbled across a member of the Blackmoor tribe. Me, Keeva. At the time, I was 19 years old and badly injured. I told Seraph about the horrors and destruction that Victor's army had caused, and begged her to stop him. Seraph promised me that she would stop him, no matter what it took. I was the only one that survived the previous battle with Victor. I was still willing to fight with General Seraph to stop Victor. After a few days of trying to locate Prince Victor and his army, General Seraph and her army found and surrounded them. When Prince Victor refused to surrender, General Seraph revealed herself as Empress Seraphina, and with a bit of force, Prince Victor surrendered, and he was arrested for treason. His life was spared, and he was imprisoned for the rest of his life. I became the hand of the Empress Seraphina. Together we passed many laws and signed many treaties of peace. We changed the laws of succession. We helped the empire flourish for the next 12 years. And once Empress Seraphina handed her throne over to her son, I left in good graces, of course. Seraphina wanted me to be free to do whatever I desired. So I came here, and I planned to live out the rest of my life until I died. But, as you know, the gods for some reason or another don't want me dead just yet. That's all I've got. That is all I know. I don't know much about her life before she became empress, but I imagine it was very quiet and not full of useless bloodshed. Though, if you do head south of the empire to Bayamar, House Cohen still exists, and they may have recorded texts of Empress Seraphina's life before she moved to the capital of the empire. If that is a detour you would like to take before we return to Morado, I wouldn't be against it. Then it is agreed then. Well, you should rest before the journey. You've already traveled so much. We will head out in the morning.